Hello everyone, welcome to Dr. Rajkumar's Learning App, myself Subramanya. In this session, we shall discuss on one of the most important topic under logical reasoning, that is statement and conclusion. Okay, let's move on to our topic. Before moving to our topic, we shall discuss some of the important points to be remembered to solve this kind of problems. First point, just think of statements only which is given. Here, statement is always the absolute truth. Second point, don't use your logic, common sense and general knowledge. Third one, you should not assume anything by yourselves. Next, in the similar way, you should not pre-assume also. Don't go by morality, ethics, sympathy and empathy. Here we don't have any place for these four concepts. We should not compare anything with the statement. Generally, the past statements is not valid. All past statements are invalid. Next, last one, always the advice, results and effect of the statement reflected in the conclusion are always true. These are the 8 points which need to be remembered to conclude the statements and conclusion part. Let's move on to our topic. Please remember, here statement is only the absolute truth. Just think of statements only. Here the conclusion one does not follow. Let's have an explanation now. Tip, do not assume. Here we are not supposed to assume anything by ourselves. The reason for teacher disliking Ram may be different. That is, he may be a mischievous or he might come to class late. So we can't predict or assume the reason for scolding the Ram that she is disliking. So here the conclusion one is does not follow. Moving on to our next problem. Statement, with increase in consumption of petroleum products, it is feared that petrol will be a rare commodity in a near future. Let's see the conclusion now. Conclusion 1, petroleum products should be used efficiently. Check whether the conclusion follows or doesn't follows. Tip, it is a sort of advice or result or effect. They are telling that the conclusion part is a sort of advice, result or effect of the statement. As we discussed earlier, whenever in conclusion there is an advice or it is a result of something given in a statement, then conclusions are always true or correct. Hence, conclusion 1 follows. Moving on to our very next problem. Statement, many people have been admitted to the hospital. It is assumed that junk food is poisonous. Conclusion 1, junk food is always poisonous. Check whether conclusion 1 follows or doesn't follow. Conclusion 1 doesn't follow. Let's study now why conclusion 1 does not follow. Tip to be followed here is do not pre-assume. In the statement part itself, it is assumed that junk food is poisonous. You should not pre-assume anything. You should just base your conclusion on given statement. That here the statement says it is assumed that the junk food is poisonous. In the statement itself, they have assumed that the junk food is poisonous. It does not say or guaranteed that junk food is poisonous. It is nowhere stated that the junk food is poisonous because we don't have any data or a given fact that junk food is always poisonous, and we can't assume by ourselves that is junk food is always a poisonous food. So the conclusion cannot be said that it is always poisonous. So right conclusion for this answer is it doesn't follow. Moving on to our next problem as per the given pattern in the examination. In each of the following question, a statement is given followed by two conclusion. You should mark your answers as A, only one conclusion 1 follows. Option B, when only conclusion 2 follows. Option C, either 1 or 2 conclusion follows. Option D, neither 1 or 2 conclusion follows, and whenever both the conclusion follows, you need to mark your option as option E, right? This is the marking procedure. Let's move on to our first problem now. Statement, an advertisement of company XYZ. If you are a software engineer, we want to hire you. Conclusion part. First conclusion, company hires no person with other qualification. Company XYZ is in need of a software engineer. We need to validate these two conclusions whether it follows or doesn't follows, and based on our conclusions we need to mark the answers as per our given directions. Here in this problem, conclusion 1 does not follows and conclusion 2 follows. Based on this, we can mark our answers as option B, only conclusion 2 follows. Let's check it out the explanation now. Conclusion 1, do not follows. As per statement, company wants software engineer, right? Company is in need of software engineer as per their advertisement, but it doesn't mean that it don't want any other engineer. This is an advertisement of software engineer, but it might be separately hiring other engineers also or other qualification also. Advertisement is portraying only for software engineer, but in a background process they may be hiring other qualifications also. Hence we can't come to the conclusion that company do not hires no other person with other qualifications. So the conclusion 1 do not follows, right? Coming to the conclusion 2, conclusion 2 follows, right? If they want software engineer, then only they will give the ad for a recruitment process. So the right option to be marked for this question is option B, only conclusion 2 follows, right? Moving on to our next problem. Statement, India is a democratic country. Conclusions are, no other country in the world is democratic. There are many other countries in the world that are democratic. Here again, both the conclusion do not follows. The answer to be marked here is neither 1 nor 2 conclusion follows. So let's have an explanation now. Explanation, conclusion 1 do not follows. Does the statement talk about any other country or say in any other way that no other country is democratic and only India is democratic? Which is absolutely no. That means this conclusion is nothing but an assumption. Here they have nowhere quoted that no other country in the world is democratic, and the statement is just talking about India's democracy. Here we are assuming that no other country in the world is democratic. As we discussed earlier, our assumption does not have any valid meaning or any valid sense. So assumptions are always wrong. So as per that tip, we can clearly say that conclusion 1 is not following the statement. So conclusion 1 do not follows. Conclusion 2, statement says India is a democratic country. Does the statement talks about any other country or about any other countries democratic or not? Here we are comparing India with other countries. As we know that comparison part is not a valid sense. So here conclusion 2 also do not follows. Moving on to our next problem. Statement, Sham is one of the probable students for securing first rank in the class. The conclusion quoted here are, Sham will secure first rank and Sham will not secure first rank. These sort of cases, question will be always based on concept called probability, right? Here there is a probability that Sham may score first rank, meanwhile so Sham may not score first rank. Here the conclusion 1 and conclusion 2 both will happen, but it don't happen simultaneously, right? It don't happen independently or it don't happen simultaneously, because it is a probable case. In probability case, 50% may happen and 50% may not happen. So in these sort of cases, we need to choose always the condition as either case. Okay, please remember, wherever you come across the condition of probability, then you need to choose always the condition as either case. So the right option for this problem is option 3, either case. Okay, right? Here conclusion 1 and conclusion 2 either follows. Moving on to our next problem. Statement, due to recession, company X has fired its 200 employees. Conclusion part 1, company X is well known for firing people. So conclusion 2, all other competitors of company X are also affected because of recession. Let's check it out, the conclusion parts now. Here both the conclusion do not follows. When both the conclusion do not follows, we need to opt the answer as, or we need to mark our answers as D. Okay, option D, right? Explanation, conclusion 1 do not follows. It is nowhere specified that the company X is famous for firing people, and we don't have any supportable data to blame that company X is famous for firing people. So it is our assumption, as we know that our assumptions is always a false statement. So conclusion does not follows. Conclusion 2 do not follows, right? Here we are comparing company X with other competitors. As from the earlier discussion, we know that we don't have provision for even comparing also. Here conclusion is a pre-assumption. As we know, pre-assumption is also a false base. So conclusion 2 do not follows. Conclusion 2 do not follows. Moving on to our next problem. Statement. An advertisement 50% off on all electronic goods up till 31st January. And the conclusions are, after 31st Jan, no discount will be provided. The second one, no sale on electronic goods after 31st January. Let's have a discussion part now. Both the conclusion do not follow. So the answer to be marked here is D, right? Neither 1 nor 2 follows. Let's have a explanation over here. Conclusion 1 do not follows. After 31st, they may give 60% or 40%. We don't know whether they will give discount or no discounts. Here it is been assumed that after 31st Jan, there will be a no discount sessions, which is absolutely false. As we know that we don't have provision for assuming. So conclusion 1 is not following the statement because of assumptions. Conclusion 2, here topic is about discount. We are not talking about selling or buying goods, and telling no sale is our assumptions. As we know that assumption do not have a valid sense. So conclusion 2 do not follow. Moving on to our last problem. Statement. Higher IQ is important to be a scientist. Conclusion. Average student should not aspire to become a scientist. Next, second one. All highly gifted students become scientists. Let's move on to our discussion. Here, conclusion 1 follows and conclusion 2 do not follows. When in this condition, we need to mark our answer as option A. Only conclusion 1 follows. Let's study in detail now. Okay. Conclusion 1, tip, do not follow morals or ethics. We are not supposed to follow morality or ethics. Average student does not have higher IQ. So only the average student should not aspire to become a scientist. It is independent of the statement. Always ignore the morals. Based on tip, do not follow morals and ethics, we can clearly say that conclusion 1 follows. Coming to conclusion part 2, conclusion part 2 does not follows. There is nowhere specified that all higher IQ students prefer scientist job. It is our assumption. As we know that our assumption is always a invalid cases. Okay, here again assumptions do not follow. So the conclusion 2 do not follows. In the next session, we shall have a discuss on some more other important topics. Keep playing around.